and we're in the little lull for the portion of the Razorback season with the FCS win on Saturday, now into the bye week, but there were big things that happened across the SEC this past weekend. So, Connor, let's just dig right into it here. Mississippi continues to pick up big victories, and I thought maybe LSU might continue the whole play for Coach O thing, but maybe that's going to fall by the wayside. Mississippi is a real contender here in this situation, and you pointed out a situation where they might actually have a chance for an SEC West Division championship. But I kind of look into the future and think you also write about the idea that Lane Kiffin, why would he not be the next LSU coach if they can throw a giant bag of money at him the way that Scott Woodward did Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, and they just rolled over the team that he is in charge of. So what do you think happens in the future with Lane Kiffin?
Well, Phil, first of all, let me just say I appreciate your commitment to continue to refer to Ole Miss as Mississippi. Hold true on that one. I support the pettiness that comes with that. But I'll say this. If I'm Scott Woodward, what do I want in a head coach? I want somebody who has experience in the SEC, not only taking over a program that has some issues, but then building it back up. What did you see on Saturday? Because I saw a program that is on the cusp of a top 10 ranking that had its sixth largest crowd ever for a picturesque day in Oxford, hosting a team that had more talent that by day's end you would have thought, well, clearly the more talented team was the ones in the sissy blue uniforms. And instead, we saw an Ole Miss team that really dominated that game after the first quarter. And they host Arch Manning, their biggest recruit in 2 decades. And suddenly you're like, wow, what has Lane been able to do at a program that was 4-8 when he took over? That is so impressive to me. And it gets lost in the shuffle because of his bravado. And we'd be talking about it more on a national level probably if he didn't lose to Alabama the way that he did. But at the same time, I'm looking at that if I'm Scott Woodward and I'm saying that's the blank check I need to write. That's the guy that I need to do whatever it possibly takes to go out and get. Who can go out and beat Alabama? Who can go out and take this thing to the next level and give us that high floor that we've been looking for? It's Lane Kiffin. And that's not to say that other people couldn't succeed at this job. It's the only program in the country that has had 3 different head coaches in the 21st century lead them to national championships. This is an incredible job. It's better than USC. But Lane's the guy. And if you're Scott Woodward, man, you got to be thinking to yourself that there might not be a big enough check to write to be able to get him to come to Baton Rouge.
All right, now in and of itself, this season here and now, you go back and look at the schedule. Like so many bye weeks are last week or this week in the SEC. Mississippi had the earliest bye week in the conference. And I don't really see like a lot of easy games left. I mean, you do have Vanderbilt the second to last week before the Egg Bowl, but before that, Auburn, Liberty. Liberty's not a team you can just run over. A&M, and I kind of wonder about. You like to have the bye week at a perfect point. I'm not sure if there is one, but to have it so early in week 5 for Mississippi, that could be an issue for them, especially with Matt Corral banged up.
It was week 4.
It was week 4. There you go.
That's such a great point, and it's something that I think needs to be discussed more because you are absolutely right. The schedule does not really set up for them to do what A&M did last year. That is, have the Alabama loss early in the season and then respond to that by winning out in SEC play. Now, I think Ole Miss is still capable of it. They're going to be a slight underdog on the road at Auburn this week, an Auburn team that Arkansas fans know all too well is playing really, really good football right now, just coming off of their bye week. And you're right, Matt Corral is banged up. He was not at 100% in that game on Saturday. Now, what they have working in their favor right now is 2 things. We saw that defense play its best game it has played against an SEC opponent of the Lane Kiffin era. Chance Campbell, the Maryland transfer, that dude was everywhere. It looks like a group that can flirt with mediocrity, and I know they had a really bad game against Arkansas, but getting a little bit healthier on that side of the ball has done them wonders. And then offensively, they got the number 1 non-service academy rushing attack in college football right now. Jerry Neely is back healthy. He was dealing with some concussion symptoms. He looks like he's back at full go. Snoop Connor has been a revelation there. and they have Henry Parrish as well. It's a three-headed rushing attack. So, yeah, you've got Matt Corral banged up. They're not the same type of team if that's the case moving forward, and the bye week doesn't help them get healthy at the most important position. But they got a lot more working in their favor, and they've really developed a more complete team than the one that we saw earlier in this year and even, I think, throughout most of last year.
Mm-hmm. Stepping out of the SEC real quick, Connor, Oklahoma had a scare against Kansas this week where they basically said, tickets be damn, if you're near the stadium, come on in. If OU finishes undefeated, wins the Big 12, could they be left out of the CFP just on eye test alone?
No, I don't think so. I think what's more dangerous for like a Cincinnati, who, again, I need to remind the people at every possible turn that I had them predicted to go to the college football playoff back in May. Need not forget that. But I think the bigger issue for them is one loss. I don't think they have a loss to give. They're not getting any style points right now at all. And we've seen one-loss Power 5 conference champs get left out of the college football playoff. And it's not crazy to think with how down the Big 12 has been this year, Oklahoma State losing that game over the weekend against Iowa State. And I kind of look at the conference and say, yeah, that they would possibly be on the outside looking in. Now, if they're undefeated, that's different. We're not seeing an undefeated Power 5 conference champ getting left out of the field. But it's ugly, and they can't play these full games. You know, I made the comparison. I think they're 2014 Florida State. That's what they are reminiscent of right now, just somehow getting by. And even if they got to the playoff, it feels like it would be more of the same for Oklahoma in a semifinal matchup. If they're going to be a team that kind of has these halves where they just look like vastly, it's Jekyll and Hyde, then you can't rely on them to be a national title contender. So it's a fair point to bring up, but I think they'd be good if they went undefeated.
Mm-hmm. Back to the SEC, big matchup this weekend with the world's largest cocktail party in Jacksonville, Florida. Does Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators have a shot at this? Because it feels like they play wherever their competition is. If their competition is down, they play down. If the competition is up, they seem to play up. Do they have a shot against, obviously, an up in the Georgia Bulldogs?
I don't really think so. I don't. And it's strength on strength because Florida, I just said Ole Miss is the number one non-service academy rushing attack in the country. Florida's number 2 in that department. And despite all the issues that they've had at the quarterback situation with Emory Jones, kind of going back and forth with Anthony Richardson, who has made some freshman mistakes, some redshirt freshman mistakes, you still don't really have a good feeling that they're going to be able to run the football against this Georgia front. I mean, good luck trying to run the ball against Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Devontae Wyatt. That seems like hell to do for 60 minutes. And I don't really trust them being able to avoid those mistakes in the passing game. And what's going to happen if and when Florida falls behind in this football game and suddenly you're in those obvious passing situations? I just think that's really rough, and they can't follow that formula. Now, if they get off to an early lead, put Georgia on their heels, maybe they get a special team score or something like that. All right, this could be a true 60-minute game, but by no means can I sit here and tell you I think Florida has a legitimate chance to win this game, especially not with the way that Stetson Bennett has been playing this year, actually executing Todd Monken's offense, 12.1 yards per attempt. And they're running play action. They're doing some things that I think that the Georgia fans are blown away by, and they couldn't have expected Stetson Bennett to be this good, and I expect him to be the starter in Jacksonville. So it's going to be a good one. I'm going to be there in Jacksonville on Saturday, so looking forward to it. But, yeah, I'd be lying if I told you that anything but a Georgia blowout would be a surprise.
Auburn's got a chance to, leap into second place this weekend in the West if they can beat Ole Miss and Oxford. I doubt that's what's going to happen. So, I'm looking here at kind of like a logjam behind essentially Alabama and Mississippi. Let's just go ahead and think the Rebels beat Auburn. In the last month of the season.
That game is in Jordan-Hare.
Okay.
So Auburn's a 1.5-point favorite, actually, in that one.
All right. Well, then how do you view that going? Is there? We've already discussed a little bit about Mississippi. Auburn, they kind of got things moving a little bit here.
They're playing well, and they have a lot more confidence in their passing game. And Arkansas saw that. They're willing to now take some of these chances downfield that earlier in the year they really weren't. And now they feel like Demetrius Robertson is developing into that downfield threat that they absolutely need. And they have versatility in the rushing attack. And if Bo Nix isn't going to make some of those grenade situations that just blow up your chance of winning, then they absolutely have a chance to win that game. I look at that and I say that's dependent probably on the health of Matt Corral. I don't know that a less than 100% Matt Corral can go on the road and beat that team, despite the fact that I just named those things that are working in Ole Miss's favor. But Auburn looks good, and they look like a team that ever since that Georgia State debacle, they have figured some things out. And I think that defensively, they're getting a lot more confident in year one with Derek Mason on that side of the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I think that game is very much a true 60-minute game, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if Auburn came out ahead and established themselves as the number 2 team in the West.
All right, last thoughts. I know you've got connections into the Big Ten, of course. And that might be the biggest game of the weekend, Michigan versus Michigan State. This would feel like, in previous years under Jim Harbaugh, like this is a game. This is just a loss because how can you continue to win game after game after game? Michigan's playing really well though. Michigan, this has got to be one of the biggest games in this rivalry's history, just based upon the thought that they're both undefeated. What do you think about the Spartans versus the Wolverines?
I think Michigan should win this football game. Now, should and will are two different things, but I think the key for Michigan is pretty obvious. Contain Kenneth Walker. Make Michigan State try and go to the air with Peyton Thorne and try and be a more vertical team. Michigan's got to be able to get a lead on the road. It's got to try and take that crowd out of it, which I actually think is possible. And I think with the way that they've been playing defense, they only have one game all year in which they've allowed more than 17 points. That is huge, and I know there was a lot made about firing Don Brown finally, but that to me has been the difference for Michigan and being able to now look like a legit contender in the Big Ten East. We love to make the Harbaugh jokes, everybody does, but there's a good chance that after this weekend we're like, wow, does Michigan have like a loss to give potentially to get into the college football playoff? I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about, but I think they have the advantage. I think they're the more talented team, and I think they're able to go on the road and get what would be one of the biggest wins of the Harbaugh era.
All right, we'll leave it there, Connor. Appreciate you, man. Have a great week, and we'll be past this bye week thing for Arkansas this next weekend. Thank goodness. Thank you, as always.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
We're back and better than ever. A new web interface to start the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all basketball and football action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV 50 to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, and baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.